October 13, 2025. A 75-year-old grandmother stands in chains, dressed in a faded purple jail jumpsuit. A life built on wealth, influence, and absolute control has collapsed into concrete floors and steel doors that will never open for her again. Donna Adelson, once the commanding force behind a powerful South Florida family, is about to discover what it means to have nothing left to command. Not her schedule, not her comfort, not even her own safety. But here is the part that unsettles people the most. Many believe life in prison is the humane alternative to execution. By the end of this video, you may question whether life without parole is mercy at all. Because for some, it is not a sentence. It is a slow, deliberate execution carried out one day at a time. Before judging her fate, you must understand exactly what she did. Judge Stephen Everett delivered the sentence without hesitation. Life in prison without the possibility of parole, followed by an additional 30 years for conspiracy and solicitation, to be served consecutively. In practical terms, it meant Donna Adelson would never leave prison alive. No parole board, no future hearings, no opportunity for mercy. The judge repeatedly interrupted her as she attempted to proclaim her innocence, warning that her statements demonstrated a complete lack of remorse. She insisted she had lived a law-abiding life, claiming she had never even received a parking ticket. Yet the jury had found her guilty of orchestrating the murder for hire of her former son-in-law, Florida State University law professor Dan Markel, who was shot and killed in his garage in July 2014. The evidence was extensive and relentless. Wiretapped phone calls, text messages, financial transfers, testimony from cooperating witnesses. Jailhouse informants described Donna openly discussing the crime and attempting to purchase false testimony from inside jail. This was not speculation. It was documentation. 5 individuals have now been convicted in connection with the plot. Her son Charlie is serving life in prison. The hired gunman Sigfredo Garcia is serving life. The intermediary Catherine Magbanua is serving life. Each conviction reinforced the same conclusion. This was not a crime of passion. It was a calculated decision driven by control. Donna wanted her daughter Wendy and her grandchildren relocated from Tallahassee to South Florida. Dan Markel stood in the way. Removing him solved the problem. But sentencing was only the beginning of her punishment. Less than 12 hours later, at 5:48 a.m. on October 14, 2025, Donna Adelson was transferred into the custody of the Florida Department of Corrections. From that moment forward, every privilege disappeared. No more private meetings with attorneys on demand. No more unrestricted phone calls to her husband Harvey. No more influence. No more negotiation. She was transported to the Florida Women's Reception Center in Ocala for intake processing. This is where identity is stripped away. Strip searches, delousing, fingerprinting, mugshots, medical examinations conducted without dignity. A Department of Corrections number assigned to replace her name. Donna Adelson ceased to exist in any official sense. She became an inmate identified by digits. In December 2025, she was transferred to Homestead Correctional Institution in Miami-Dade County, closer to where her husband resides. But proximity offered no comfort. Homestead is also where Catherine Magbanua is serving her life sentence. Prosecutors requested that the 2 women be kept separate, but prisons are unpredictable environments. Separation is never guaranteed. Homestead Correctional Institution sits on the edge of the Everglades. It houses women across multiple custody levels. On paper, the buildings are climate-controlled. In reality, former inmates describe unbearable conditions. One woman who spent 2 decades inside reported temperature readings exceeding 118 degrees inside housing units. Ventilation systems clogged with mold spread across ceilings and walls. Women lay on tile floors beneath damp sheets, wearing nothing but underwear, attempting to cool their bodies enough to avoid fainting. Florida regulations require inmates to wear thick canvas uniforms during daytime hours. For a 75-year-old woman, the strain is immense. Cells contain narrow windows operated by hand cranks, but no screens. Open them and insects, rodents, and reptiles enter freely. Close them and the heat becomes suffocating. A lawsuit filed in 2024 alleged that extreme heat contributed to multiple inmate deaths at nearby facilities. Heat indexes inside Florida prisons can exceed 150 degrees during summer months. Only a fraction of housing units are air-conditioned. Physical discomfort is constant, but physical suffering is only part of the experience. Before her conviction, Donna described her pretrial confinement during a March 2025 hearing. She testified through tears about being housed in protective custody with dozens of other women. She described multiple assaults. One occurred in the shower, another while brushing her teeth. She spoke of extortion and fear. That was before she was sentenced. Now she is there permanently. Her age, her notoriety, and her background make her vulnerable. Prison does not forget who you are, and it does not forgive. What truly distinguishes a life sentence from a death sentence is not the physical environment, but the psychological erosion that occurs over time. Research consistently shows that incarceration accelerates aging. Prisoners experience physiological decline at rates 10 to 15 years faster than those on the outside. A 75-year-old inmate often functions physically and cognitively like someone approaching 90. Prisons classify inmates as elderly beginning at age 50 because of this phenomenon. Years of stress, inadequate health care, limited nutrition, lack of sunlight, and constant vigilance take a measurable toll. Donna Adelson will face chronic medical conditions common among aging inmates: hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, pulmonary disorders, cognitive impairment, depression. Studies of incarcerated women over 50 show significantly higher rates of cognitive decline compared to the general population. Medical staff frequently report shock when learning an inmate's actual age because their bodies appear far older. The cost of housing elderly inmates is roughly double that of younger prisoners due to medical needs, yet prisons are not designed as long-term care facilities. Staffing shortages are common. Treatment delays are routine. Inmates describe medical complaints being dismissed or ignored. Over-the-counter medications are often unavailable. Elderly prisoners wait hours in lines for care, standing on swollen joints, enduring pain without relief. But Donna's suffering extends beyond physical decline. According to a jailhouse informant who later spoke publicly, Donna is consumed by anxiety over her husband Harvey. She worries about his physical deterioration, his weight loss, his depression. After decades of dependence, she fears he cannot manage daily life alone, paying bills, cooking meals, maintaining a household. She also believes her daughter Wendy holds her responsible for the family's collapse. Every day she wakes knowing her actions destroyed her children's lives. Her son is imprisoned. Her daughter is estranged. Her grandchildren will grow up knowing their grandmother orchestrated their father's murder. This is not a punishment that ends. With a death sentence, there is a conclusion. Psychological research shows humans can endure immense suffering if they know it has an endpoint. Death row inmates prepare mentally. Some find religion. Some seek reconciliation. Some create meaning. Life without parole offers no such framework. There is no countdown, no resolution, just decades of repetition. Identical days stacked endlessly until death arrives unannounced. Donna filed appeals in late 2025. Each was denied. Motions for a new trial were rejected. Requests to interview jurors were dismissed. The evidence was overwhelming. Wiretaps, financial records, coordinated timelines. Her attempt to flee the country on a one-way ticket to a nation without an extradition treaty further reinforced guilt. Appeals may continue procedurally, but relief is unlikely. Even if retried, the evidence remains. The convictions of co-conspirators stand. Donna will not be released. Her daily routine is now fixed. Wake when instructed. Eat when told. Sit where assigned. Request permission for phone calls. Shower only at designated times. Recreation only when allowed. Visitation is limited, supervised, and exhausting. Harvey must schedule visits in advance, submit to searches, and sit in crowded rooms under constant surveillance. No privacy. No intimacy. Just hours measured by guards before separation again. And then there is the monotony. Days dissolve into months, months into years. The same walls, the same sounds, the same smells. Humans are not built for this level of repetition. Inmates describe becoming institutionalized, losing the ability to imagine a future. Life becomes an eternal present that never improves. Programs exist, but purpose does not. Education, religion, vocational training offer distraction, not freedom. Donna will never walk on a beach again, never eat in a restaurant, never feel grass under her feet, never hold her grandchildren, never sleep in her own bed. Some call life imprisonment humane. Others call it a living death. The body survives long after the spirit collapses. Whether this is justice or cruelty depends on perspective. But for Donna Adelson, the sentence is clear. She will wake every day inside concrete walls, aging rapidly, watching her world disappear piece by piece, until one day she dies unseen, unheard, and forgotten. Now, this is the moment where the question stops being theoretical and becomes deeply uncomfortable. Is life without parole actually more humane than a death sentence? Or is it simply a slower form of destruction? With the death penalty, suffering has a boundary. The conditions are harsh. The waiting can last decades. The knowledge of an execution date creates its own psychological torment. But eventually it ends. And that ending matters more than people realize. Many death row inmates report finding structure in that finality. Some turn to faith. Some seek forgiveness. Some write, reflect, and prepare themselves for what they believe comes next. There is a framework for understanding their fate. The finish line, however grim. Life without parole offers no such structure. It is waking up every day knowing there is no resolution coming. It is watching your body weaken year after year in an environment that was never designed to care for the elderly. It is feeling your memory slip, your health decline, and your relevance fade, all while time stretches endlessly ahead of you. It is knowing your spouse may die while you sit behind concrete walls, unable to hold their hand or say goodbye. It is watching your children and grandchildren grow older through brief phone calls, until those calls become less frequent, then stop altogether, not out of cruelty but out of emotional survival. As of early 2026, Donna Adelson remains housed at Homestead Correctional Institution. Her legal appeals continue on paper, but most experts agree they are unlikely to change the outcome. Harvey still visits when he can, though those close to him say his health is failing, just as Donna feared. The case continues to fascinate the public because it represents something larger than one crime. A wealthy family convinced they could manipulate the system. A custody dispute that escalated into murder. A carefully planned conspiracy that unraveled piece by piece. 5 convictions. Multiple life sentences. And at the center of it all, a woman who believed control could solve every problem. Now stripped of every form of control imaginable. So consider this carefully. Knowing everything you now know about what Donna will endure for the rest of her life, do you still believe life in prison is the more merciful option? She may spend another decade or 2, or more if her body allows it, living in extreme heat, constant surveillance, physical decline, and relentless monotony. No privacy, no dignity, no meaningful future. She will die in custody, likely in a prison medical unit, without ceremony, without closure, without the ability to shape her final moments. Some argue that life in prison allows time for reflection, repentance, and personal growth. But for many elderly inmates, it becomes something else entirely. Prolonged fading, a state where the body continues long after the sense of self has collapsed. A quiet erasure that happens day after day. Donna Adelson orchestrated a murder. The harm she caused is undeniable. Punishment is warranted. But the question remains. Is decades of slow deterioration more just than a single irreversible act of execution? Or is it simply cruelty stretched across time? That is the question only you can answer. Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this examination of life without parole challenged your assumptions, subscribe for more in-depth analysis as this case and others like it continue to unfold. These are not easy questions, and they are not meant to be. They force us to confront what justice actually means when punishment becomes permanent and suffering becomes routine. Whether you see this sentence as accountability or as an unending psychological sentence says as much about our values as it does about her crimes. There is no comfortable answer, only the reality of what life without parole truly looks like. Think carefully before responding, because once a life sentence begins, there is no reversal, no forgetting, and no escape. Only time remains.